We are back with a college football recap. So this is going to be the week 2 recap, talking about everything that happened this past weekend in college football. Let's start off with the big one, number 3 Texas at number 10 Michigan. What an absolute beatdown for the Longhorns, man. They just went in to Ann Arbor and just dominated. From start to finish, they were clearly the better team. And I'll be honest, this was pretty expected. Now, I think I would have thought Michigan would have put up a little bit of a better fight. But I remember I commented on a few different social media posts saying Texas was going to win by 14 plus. And that happened, 31-12. So well more than 14. Quinn Ewers went for 246 yards, 3 tutties, 0 picks. Dude is just a professional back there. He's going to be an NFL quarterback. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's accurate. He gets the job done, man. But on the flip side with Michigan, dude, they just dropped off so much from last year. That was somewhat expected, obviously. Losing, I think, 11 guys to the draft. Obviously, you lose Harbaugh. But, man, I mean, just like there's a clear difference between Texas, who I would probably have as the number 2 team in the country right now, and Michigan, who I still think is a top 25 team, but definitely did not belong in the top 10. Very, very rarely have I ever seen a team that tries to do like a 2 QB system ever work, dude. Like, they're trying to run Orgy and Warren out there. Obviously, Davis Warren is QB1. He throws the football. But they put Orgy out there in running situations, and very rarely have I seen a team go out and win a national championship when they do a system like that. Since this is primarily a college football 25 account, let's talk about Donovan Edwards since he is on the cover of the game. Just not a great start to the season. I don't know how much of that is his fault. Michigan only got 1 touchdown in this game, and it came in the 4th quarter in garbage time. Texas honestly let off the gas, dude. Like, they were up so easily throughout this game. It was like they didn't even really need to try that much in the second half, especially in the 4th quarter. Like I said, I have Texas as my number 2 team in the country. Looking ahead at their schedule, I really only see one potential loss, and that's against number 1 Georgia, obviously. Their next hardest game after that is going to be Oklahoma, who struggled with Houston this past weekend. That's a home game for Texas. I think Texas, honestly, is going to win that game fairly easily, except it is a rivalry game, so maybe throw the records out the window. But still, I mean, the only loss I see on this schedule is probably Georgia, and they have a chance to win that game. That's also a home game, so we'll see. I mean, 12-0 is the ceiling, and 11-1 is probably the floor. Michigan, on the other hand, they have 3 more ranked opponents: number 11 USC, number 9 Oregon, number 3 Ohio State. That is tough. I'm going to chalk up all of those as losses, although Oregon has not looked that good. I think Ohio State and USC are definitely losses, in my opinion. Oregon's going to be tough. At Washington's going to be a tough. At Illinois might be a little bit of a trap game. I think the ceiling for Michigan is 9-3, and they very well could be looking at like a 7-5 season. But Texas is legit, dude. They have a good defense. They obviously have a quarterback. The offense is clicking. Sark is an absolute genius as a coach and play caller. I fully expect this Texas team to go to the SEC championship and easily make the playoff. Potential top 4 bid. And if not, if they don't win the SEC, they'll be 5 or 6 right there looking at the top 4. All right, let's talk about Notre Dame, Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois goes to Notre Dame and beats them 16-14. I think they got paid over $1 million to play in this game and then go on to upset the number 5 team in the country. So that's a win-win for NIU, bro. Let's talk about the obvious stuff here. Notre Dame's offense sucks. I mean, just straight up, it's not good. Riley Leonard was abysmal. 2 picks, 163 yards. And I think people are going to start to question whether he's the answer at quarterback. And then bigger picture, I think people are going to start questioning, and maybe already are questioning, is Marcus Freeman the answer at head coach? Notre Dame's defense played fine. They only gave up 16 points, and that's being on the field over half of the game. So you can't blame this on the defense. They're on the field a lot and only gave up 16 points. Notre Dame's offense has to find a way to score the football. Let's be real, that win at Texas A&M is not that impressive. It looked like it at first. We thought Texas A&M was going to be a decent team, but that's not looking like the case. And the fact that Notre Dame is still ranked, I think, is a joke in my opinion. The fact that Northern Illinois is ranked, I don't think that is a good look. I think they're trying to justify Notre Dame being ranked by having Northern Illinois being ranked, which I just hate when they do stuff like that, especially if you're going to rank both of them. Northern Illinois should obviously be ranked ahead. They just beat them head-to-head on the road. Notre Dame's schedule the rest of the way is not that hard at all. They play number 19 Louisville. They play at number 11 USC. That's definitely their toughest game, and I think that's definitely an L. The fact that you lost to Northern Illinois, you went from basically an auto bid for the playoff to now you have to win out, which is funny because we have the 12-team playoff now. That was supposed to allow teams maybe to have more losses. And it's kind of opposite for Notre Dame because their schedule isn't that great. Again, that Texas A&M win doesn't look that good. You just lost to Northern Illinois. If you don't win out, if you don't get that USC win, you're probably not in. Even if you beat USC, but if you drop another game, you're sitting at 10-2. I don't think you get in. So it's got to suck for Irish fans knowing you're basically already eliminated from the playoff 2 weeks in, and it's because you lost to a team you had no business losing to. So we'll see how it plays out for the Irish the rest of the way, but right now I'm projecting they do not get in the playoff. Number 14, Tennessee versus number 24, NC State. This was a neutral site game in Charlotte. And I actually went to this game, so I feel like, I'm able to speak on this game and what I saw. Complete domination from Tennessee. Probably the most impressive performance of the weekend, except maybe Texas. But dude, from start to finish, Tennessee was in complete control of this game. Tennessee looked solid, not only on offense, but also defense. Now, NC State, I think, is probably a little overrated. Their offense is brutal to watch, dude. I think they have either the slowest or the second slowest pace in college football. They chew up the clock. But once Tennessee finally got the ball and started getting things rolling, it was just over. I think the first drive for NC State took 8 or 9 minutes off the clock, and then after that, it was just all Tennessee. Nico looked amazing. He had 2 picks. The first one was pretty bad, but the second one wasn't really his fault. He had pressure in his face. The ball got tipped. But he is so poised in the pocket. He also has legs to get out and make plays or scramble for a first down. I saw him do that a few times. The run game was fantastic. Again, the defense just completely smothered NC State. Tennessee jumped from number 14 to number 7 in the polls, and I'm here for it, dude. I mean, they looked so good. 6 of the top 7 teams in the AP poll are in the SEC, which is kind of crazy. They're going to start beating up on each other once they have to play in conference play, so that won't last. But Tennessee is a team that I think very well can make the playoff. The rest of the way, they have 3 ranked opponents: at Oklahoma versus Alabama and at Georgia. I think at Georgia is probably a loss, but honestly, that is like the only game I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to lose. Oklahoma has not looked that good. At Norman will be a little interesting, but if I had to pick right now, I'm taking Tennessee. Then they get Alabama at home, which prior to the year, I would have said, I think Bama, that's going to be a close one, but I think Bama gets that dub. However, now, dude, Alabama going into Neyland, I do not know. I think Tennessee probably has the upper hand in that game. So when I'm saying Tennessee could be looking at an 11-1 season, that is for real, dude. So Tennessee wins this one 51-10. Impressive win. Right now, I think Tennessee gets into the playoff. There's so much else to talk about, so many close games. On paper, this weekend wasn't supposed to be that crazy for games. We had a few ranked matchups, but that's it. But then we had a ton of unexpected close games. Let's start with Bama, South Florida. That was crazy for Bama fans. Back-to-back years where South Florida takes them into the fourth quarter. It was a 1-point game going into the fourth quarter. A 21-16 game with 6.5 minutes to go. Bama ended up scoring 3 touchdowns in the last 6 minutes. Bama looked horrendous offensively, but it was very strange. Right tackle Formby was struggling all game, and then they ended up subbing him out in that last 6 minutes with Pritchett. And I think they scored those 3 touchdowns on like 7 plays. So a lot of people were saying that right tackle change at the very end of the game honestly was changing everything for that offense. Caden Proctor, you'll probably remember, he was at Bama, transferred to Iowa, and then transferred back to Bama. He typically plays at right tackle. He is currently injured, so once they get him back, that should help them as well. But again, close loss, and now, like I said, You have to go to Neyland. You play Georgia week 5. But maybe to encourage a few Bama fans, I mean, similar game to last season against South Florida. And then obviously Bama was one play away from the national championship. So maybe slow down. Sometimes we like to overreact in these early games. I've probably done it this video. Oregon, another close game. They beat Boise State 37-34. Ashton Jeanty for the Broncos is a problem. He's probably my Heisman frontrunner at the moment. If not, he's definitely like top 3. Dude is an absolute dog. Instead of freaking out about this game, though, for Oregon, obviously, if you're an Oregon fan, you would have liked to seen a, easier win at home. But I think Boise State is a very, very good team. I think they're probably my pick right now to be the group of 5 team that gets into the playoff, especially with Jeanty at running back. So because of that, Oklahoma escapes Houston 16-12. Dude, Oklahoma's offense did not look good. Only 249 total yards, 2.6 yards per rush. And Houston lost to UNLV week 1 by 20 points. So this is not a good look for Oklahoma. Earlier I was talking about Tennessee. This is why I definitely think Tennessee is going to beat Oklahoma, even though it's at Norman. Texas, I think, is going to do great in the SEC this year. Oklahoma, I think, might struggle a little bit. Like I said, Tennessee, they have to play. Texas, they have to play. Ole Miss, they have to play. Missouri, Alabama. Those are 5 top 7 teams. They play 5 top 7 teams. They play Tulane this weekend, who almost just beat Kansas State. Honestly, probably should have beat Kansas State. I mean, if they don't handle business in a few of these games, they could literally be going like 6-6. Now, I think Oklahoma's a good enough team to pull out a few of those wins, but 7-5, 8-4 is very, very possible. Speaking of Kansas State, Tulane, like I said, Kansas State escapes Tulane 34-27. Tulane was up 27-20 in the fourth quarter, but then down the stretch, they had a scoop and score that resulted in a Kansas State touchdown. They also had an interception on their last drive of the game that sealed the win for K-State. So Tulane had chances, man. Great win for Kansas State. I think, again, this is a game, I think, similar to that Oregon-Boise State game. Tulane is a very good team. They would probably be my number 2 group of 5 school that I think would get in behind Boise State, and that's on the road at Tulane. Not a bad win at all for Kansas State. I think the thing that worries me the most about K-State, their quarterback, Avery Johnson, fantastic. He's very athletic. He can run the ball. I think he struggles a little bit throwing the ball, and so that'll be something to watch for in these upcoming games. They take on Arizona this weekend. That's going to be massive. That's a Friday night game. That'll be fun, but they better watch out for that. Arizona has a very explosive offense. Not a good defense. I think that'll probably be a shootout. Like I said, so many games. Let's go down the list here. We had 3 ranked opponents lose to unranked opponents. Number 19, Kansas lost to Illinois. That was surprising. A lot of people like Kansas. I liked Kansas. A lot of people were picking them to win the Big 12, and they drop one to Illinois. Iowa blows a 13-0 halftime lead to unranked Iowa State to lose 20-19. At first, it was like, okay, pretty good performance from Iowa. You're shutting them out, 13 points for the offense. Hey, if they put up 26 in the game, that's fantastic for Iowa. But they only score 6 in the second half, lose 20-19. Brutal loss for Iowa, man. Those Iowa fans got to be hurting. But that's a rivalry game. Great win for Iowa State. Lastly, Syracuse beats number 23 Georgia Tech. Kyle McCord absolutely balls out, 381 yards, 4 tutties. I stand by it, dude. I said it before the season started. Kyle McCord, I'm taking him over Drew Aller. I think he was disrespected at Ohio State. Now, to be fair, Drew Aller has also been balling out at Penn State, but Kyle McCord looks very, very good. Watch out for Syracuse. Another close one, Bowling Green, Penn State. Nobody saw this coming. Penn State wins 34-27, but oh my goodness, did they have a scare? They were down 24-20 at halftime, only up 27-24 going into the fourth quarter. Former Mizzou quarterback Connor Bazelak was dicing them up, but he had 2 costly picks in the second half that probably ultimately cost them the game. It was going to be hard to win with those 2 turnovers in the second half. Penn State escapes 34-27. Oklahoma State, massive win over Arkansas in double OT. Honestly, this game impressed me more about Arkansas than Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is a solid team, potential Big 12 champion. Arkansas coming to this year was not expected to be good. and they are now sitting at 1-1. They had a 70-0 dub week 1 against Arkansas Pine Bluff, and then barely losing this one to Oklahoma State. If they could have picked up that win, dude, I think Arkansas might be a trap game for several SEC teams. I'm going to predict they upset a couple teams there, and they might ruin a couple seasons for some other SEC opponents. Teams that look good and took care of business: Georgia smacked up Tennessee Tech, Ohio State smacked up Western Michigan, Ole Miss smacked up MTSU, Mizzou beat Buffalo 38-0. Utah took care of Baylor 23-12. Cam Rising got injured in that game. They were up. They scored all 23 points with him. Didn't score in the second half without him. That'll definitely be something to watch. If they don't have Cam Rising, they might not even be a top 25 team. Miami killed Florida A&M 56-9. Cam Ward impresses again. 304 yards, 3 tutties. They will be interesting to watch in the ACC. USC 48-0 over Utah State. I'm loving it, dude. USC, obviously they're going to win that football game, but the fact that they held Utah State to 0 points, a goose egg, that is literally unheard of for Lincoln Riley. I think their defense is finally pretty good. Arizona beat Northern Arizona 22-10. They're actually down at halftime, but then shut them out in the second half. Arizona takes on K-State this weekend. That'll be very interesting. Arizona's offense is very dangerous. Defense is a little sus. We'll see what happens. Louisville smacks up Jack State 49-14. Clemson, dude, 66-20 win over App State. Cade Klubnik, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns. They had 56 points at halftime. I bet the under on Cade Klubnik's passing yards, and he hit the over in the first quarter. Of course, that happens to me when I bet on Clemson. Now, App State's not quite what they usually are, but still great signs for Clemson to put up 66 points in a game. Absolutely dominated offensively. I got a handful of more games I want to briefly touch on. These were all non-ranked teams this past weekend. So Nebraska takes down Colorado 28-10. Dude, Colorado is not good. They're just simply not a good football team. They have 2 good players, Shadur Sanders, Travis Hunter. Besides that, they aren't good. The coaching staff, to be quite frank, is a joke, dude. Deion Sanders, the rest of the coaching staff, it's just like, I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it just seems like a party house, dude. Like, I read an article recently about how Deion Sanders told the band to stop playing like the fight song after Shadur Sanders scores so they can play Shadur Sanders' song over like the intercom system. Like, what are we doing, bro? Like, let's be real. Nebraska, on the other hand, dude, I don't want to say they're back, but they are almost back. They are trending in the right direction. Matt Rule has got him in a great spot. Dylan Raiola looks like he is a veteran, dude. He does not look like a true freshman. And that fan base deserves it, dude. Nebraska fans are diehard. They sell out the crowd every single time. Finally, they have something to look forward to. South Carolina beat Kentucky 31-6. This might have been one of the most surprising games of the weekend. I fully expected Kentucky to win this game pretty handily, and that was not the case. South Carolina improves to 2-0. They take on number 16 LSU this weekend. That's a home game for the Gamecocks. Dude, if they can win this game and they're 13-0 with a ranked win, they'll probably be in the polls. Kentucky's offense is bad, dude, and I didn't get to watch the game as much as I wanted to, but from what I heard, the offensive line for Kentucky is very, very bad. Brock Vandegrift was 3 for 10 for 30 yards and a pick. But again, I heard that was more so because of the offensive line and not because of him personally. Apparently, he had like 0 time to throw the football. I think that also says something about South Carolina's D-line. That South Carolina defense had 9 tackles for loss. True freshman Dylan Stewart is an animal, dude. He is better than advertised. I think the South Carolina offense is probably going to cost them some games in the future, but that defense is going to win them some games in the future. Similar to Arkansas playing spoiler, I think South Carolina could do the same in the SEC. An SEC team that disappointed this weekend, the Auburn Tigers. They lost to Cal at home 21-14. Cal's quarterback Mendoza had a solid game. I watched most of this game, dude. He was very poised and accurate, didn't make too many mistakes. But Peyton Thorne, on the other hand, for Auburn, the Michigan State transfer threw 4 interceptions, and that's what ultimately cost them the game. If Auburn doesn't turn over the ball, they probably end up winning this football game. But they turned it over 5 times, and Cal did not turn it over once. If you're losing the turnover battle, -5, you're definitely going to lose. Michigan State surprisingly beat Maryland. Michigan State coming into this year, I had them very, very low. I still don't expect them to do anything crazy this year, but Maryland at home was a 7.5 point favorite and ends up losing by 3. Great win for Michigan State. SMU lost to BYU 18-15. I did not expect this. I expected SMU to go on and win this game fairly easily. Preston Stone it's been announced that he is benched for next week. Kevin Jennings will get the start at quarterback for SMU. And I've talked about SMU, I think, every single week because they are a new team in the ACC. Their schedule is so incredibly easy. There was a legit possibility they get into the playoff just because that schedule was so easy, but they're dropping games they shouldn't. This one they lose to BYU. Arizona State beats Mississippi State 30-23. They were actually up 30-3, and then Mississippi State scored 20 unanswered. But dude, Arizona State out of nowhere is looking like a solid team. They killed Wyoming week 1. Wyoming was a 9-win team last year. Mississippi State is not a great team by any means, but Arizona State went 3-9 the past 2 years. We're not expected to be really any better this year, and now they're sitting 2-0. I mean, one more win and they already tie their win total from the past 2 years. A little bit of a crazy upset here. Probably the second biggest upset, I think, behind Northern Illinois and Notre Dame. St. Francis, PA beat Kent State 23-17. Kent State was a 17.5 favorite in that one. I've barely even heard of St. Francis, so great win for them. Wisconsin struggles with South Dakota. They end up winning this one 27-13. But the reason I'm highlighting this game is, I mean, they haven't looked great the first 2 weeks. They beat Western Michigan by 2 touchdowns, beat South Dakota by 2 touchdowns, and now they play Alabama. If Alabama had looked like themselves this past week against USF, Alabama, I would just be fully expecting them to steamroll them. That'll be slightly interesting. It is at Wisconsin, and obviously Bama struggled this past weekend. Like I said earlier in this video, Bama did figure it out a little bit at the end of the game. So I do still fully expect Bama to go to Wisconsin and get that win. Last game I'm going to highlight, Florida beat Samford 45-7, which isn't that crazy. However, DJ Lagway threw for 456 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now he is the backup quarterback to Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz was injured this game with a concussion, so Lagway got the start and he absolutely balled out. Obviously against Samford, so it's kind of hard to judge the performance. And I think Billy Napier has said that Graham Mertz is going to start this next weekend against Texas A&M, which seems a little crazy to me. Maybe it's pretty obvious in practice that Mertz is the better quarterback, but my guess is Lagway definitely gets some looks this next game against A&M. I've said it before, but Graham Mertz is kind of been overrated his whole career. He just hasn't quite taken that next step. My guess is Lagway ends up being the starting quarterback for most of this season, and we'll see what Florida can do. I think they'll get a few wins just because a lot of these teams on their schedule are flopping a little bit. Florida State obviously has flopped. A&M didn't win that first game against Notre Dame, who then lost to Northern Illinois. Mississippi State just lost to Arizona State. I think probably all the ranked teams they have to play, Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, those are probably losses. I think UCF is probably a loss, but I think they very well could beat A&M, Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Florida State. The state of Florida is kind of strange right now. Florida State not looking great. UCF looks pretty good. Miami's getting a lot of attention right now, so that'll definitely be something to keep an eye on. But that's basically it for the Week 2 recap. Week 3 coming up. It'll be fun. We got a lot of good games to look forward to, and I'll have a recap for Week 3 next week.